It is very necessary because of the great confusion and the great misunderstanding that has been permitted to evolve in this area. A confusion and misunderstanding which always existed, was not created by us or by Stanislavski. Actually, Stanislavski helped to clarify a great deal of the confusion and misunderstanding that exists about the problem of the actor. But unfortunately, his conclusions and his understanding and his definitions and his discoveries have become equally confused and equally misunderstood because other people have not been able to share the experiences on which it was based or to understand what it actually was outside of what they read. I know on many occasions I have made it a point to ask professional actors what they get from the reading of the Stanislavski books. And they all claim that, oh, it's very exciting, it's very inspirational, which I certainly would agree with. Because for once you hear somebody talk about acting with some degree of commitment, with some degree of concern, with some degree of responsibility, and with some degree of a desire to understand what goes on in this peculiar art of ours, which is the most direct art that we know of. Not the greatest, not the best, I don't speak in those terms, but it's the most direct art. All the other arts translate human feelings, emotions, experiences, ideas, and so on into other material, into paint, into words, into sound, music, into color and line, painting. Those materials are artistic materials, except, let's say, for words, which a human being also uses. But the way in which a literary artist uses is, of course, on a different level and almost for a different purpose, though the basic purpose remains one of communication. The communication is at a much higher level of creation of the thing that you wish to communicate. Everything in life is a process of communication, but the way in which you communicate characterizes the particular nature of each of the arts. Only in acting and in the theater is reality created with the same material with which you live it. A painter feels things, experiences things, he paints. If you don't know how to paint, nothing you can do with it. Everybody experiences something. But that doesn't mean, therefore, that you become a painter. Everybody experiences something. It doesn't mean you become a musician. You have to have some special faculty, some special facility to do that. Everybody experiences and learns to write, but not everybody can write in the way that writers write. It's a special skill. But in acting, the same body, the same emotions, the same mouth with which you speak, and the way in which you speak is exactly what you then do when you act. In fact, if you don't do it, then the acting is bad. And if you do it, often the acting is almost unnoticed. In fact, the better done it is, the less the audience is aware of what the actor is doing, and only when the actor acts to a certain extent with some mechanical definition, he stops, he pauses, says, then we know that he's thinking. Now, I wasn't thinking anything. I just stopped and I paused and I scratched my ear. But I'm a good enough actor, you see, so that I do it easily, what I call casually, naturally, and therefore you assume I'm thinking. It is a sign for thinking. In the same way that all the other arts are signs for experience. Only in the theater and in acting are there no signs. Actually, some people turn that also into a sign language, where the thing is not really happening, but where it's only a sign of, an image of. But only in fine acting and in great acting and in good acting do you get exactly the same thing, the same material, the same beating of the heart, the same flow of the blood, the same flush of the face, the same emotion into the voice, the same emotional behavior and commitment and motivation, and therefore resulting kind of behavior which you get in life. Except that it's much more chosen, it is created, it has to be repeated, It is deliberately arrived at, not in life, where everything is incidentally arrived at. Now, this is part of the understanding, of course, which Stanislavski brought. Actors have always had it. They've not waited for Stanislavski in order to begin acting well, in the same way that the bloodstream didn't wait for Sir John Harvey to discover that it flowed in order to start flowing. Realities do not wait for discoveries in order to start functioning. The discovery simply catches up with the facts of existence. And therefore discoveries are not inventions, are not theories, you see. They are observation of reality, a growing awareness of things as they happen, which help us therefore to control those things, to deal with them to a greater extent than has existed on previous occasions and former times. Of all the elements that we work with, the element that deals with the most direct process of creativity, the most direct relation to creation of reality on the stage, are the elements that deal with the training of the senses and the training of the emotions. All the other things are, to some extent, utilized in other forms of training. Not to the same extent as we do, but to some parallel extent. But only in the area of the work with the senses and the ability to stimulate the emotions, the training of how one stimulates the emotions, which are the ways these two things, the training of the senses and training of the emotions, are what actually happens when imagination is stirred, what you call imagination. Imagination is simply a word for something that you do not understand, so you give it a word, and therefore you think you understand it. When the imagination works, it simply means that realities are occurring without your knowledge, without your awareness, that lead to the same kind of result. When they occur, usually you are not able to repeat them except externally, and that is what we call the French school. The French school did not do away, did not eliminate reality. On the contrary, they state very clearly, even though they may not be able quite to do it, but they state very clearly that the actor must first of all experience whatever it is he's going to create on the stage. He must at some time or other have experienced it. The only thing is, the point that they make is that the actor then watches carefully to see what he did, observes the way in which he behaved, what he did with his voice, with his body, with his gestures, and so on, and then imitates those external expressions in the hope and in the expectation that it will be enough to give the audience a sense of what it is he's trying to convey, and that it does, but often also in the hope and the expectation that at times something more will happen, this thing that we call then inspiration. And it does happen. In great acting, in fine acting, it does happen. The reality of the way in which you act convinces you, the choice, the things that you have observed, become so real to you that they tune in to the realities that they're connected with, and therefore at that time an emotional memory takes place unconsciously, and since we do not know what it is, we call it inspiration. But as Stanislavski himself, I brought it in case you question me later on, because there is so much confusion that there's almost a question as to what did Stanislavski say and what did he believe in. And therefore I have to be prepared in case anybody here asks me at the end of it to prove that Stanislavski said it, to have the quote here, and therefore I brought the quote. Stanislavski made the point, which is quite evident from, if you've read any biographies of great actors, that great actors, the greater they are, the more difficulty they often have on various occasions in repeating the great performance that they gave on a former occasion. When they will be great, when inspiration will strike, they themselves do not know. And in fact, the perception of the acting problem was brought in to me, not as a result of anything that I read or about theories of acting that I became acquainted with, but as a result of seeing this precise fact occur in the theater. I was fortunate that I was born in the first year of our century, and therefore still had the occasion, soon after the First World War, to see many of the great actors. And by great actors, I mean not only people that had great talent, we have that today, but people who were able, by the peculiar process of the way in which the theater was organized, to practice that talent throughout their entire lifetime, so that they were able to bring it to a state of the utmost perfection. That we do not have today. We have great acting, but we do not have these continuous kind of performances where an actor will play the same part, the same great part, for the rest of his life, in the same way that a musician plays the same concerto for the rest of his life. If he becomes connected, if people feel that he plays that concerto beautifully, he will play that for the rest of his life, and therefore grow in his own awareness of what he's dealing with, and in his own capacity to recreate what he's experiencing, what he feels about the music, or whatever else it is, for the audience. That is why when we get people like Toscanini into the 80s, Casals into the 90s, the great cellist Casals, Rubinstein into the 80s, he's only just stopped playing, partially I think actually because he was, I think, going blind more than his fingers were giving up. His fingers were now tuned to do almost by habit. You see, not by habit, but automatically with the action, of course, of the brain. And playing, therefore, with a kind of both security and ease of commitment and ease of expression without forcing, which great performers in the early days of their experience, though it may at times be more exciting because it's so special, it arises so quickly, spontaneously, nonetheless does not possess this marvelous organic structure, like where it just seems to be all of one piece. I would like to suggest, if we have time at the end of the session, because I don't want to take too much time now, I may go into it myself, even if you do not ask me to explain that it is clear to me that while Stanislavski discovered the presence of what we call sense and emotional memory, which every human being has, by the way, but only the actor trains, or the actor possesses to such an extent that it occurs at times without his knowing how it occurs, and yet has to be trained in order that it should be constantly obedient to his will, that while he discovered it, he had not gone far enough at times in his own understanding of the procedures by means it could be stimulated and revived. It is clear to me, for instance, that in terms of the emotional memory, while he was very aware of it and remained aware till the last day of his life, he was never clear as to how it actually worked. And even when somebody kind of asked him at one moment, well, do you rule out inspiration entirely? He said, I don't want to rule out anything. I'm not an expert on these unconscious things. I don't know. So if they happen, great. If these spontaneous things happen, great. I don't want to rule out anything. But it's also clear that he did not quite understand how inspiration worked when it worked. And that inspiration when it worked was nothing more than an unconscious stir of the things which he learned to do consciously. That's what inspiration is. It's not anything different. And whenever something happens without our knowledge, without our awareness, we call it either inspired or we say it's unconscious. There's no such thing as unconscious. If it's done, obviously, something in the instrument creates that. But it may not be conscious in terms of your own awareness of what you are doing. This I would some other occasion like to go into in order to explain, because it has created a great deal of confusion, not for us, but in the minds of other people, even of some teachers who are supposed to be connected with the method, insofar as they derive from the work done at the group theater, of which I was the director and introduced the process of work, and they went on to their own work, and in that work they have given up, actually eliminated, both the training of the senses and the training of the emotions, which to me remains the central core of the way in which we approach the problem of living on the stage, not just of acting on the stage. What we will do today, we promised you to go further, because it is an area in which even when you know how to do the emotional memory, you are inexperienced about. It takes years for you to learn how to utilize it, how it should be utilized, and therefore the people asked last time, well, how do you use it in a scene? How do you go from the emotional memory in a scene? And even though it is very simple, like anything else, how do you get up from the chair? You just tell yourself to get up, and you'll get up. But if you say, wait a minute, which foot do I get up on? I don't know. I honestly don't. Do I get up with this foot? Maybe. This foot? Sometimes. I'll sit here for the rest of the day trying to decide which foot I get up on, but I won't get up. Whereas if you just tell yourself to get up, even if it's difficult to get up, I don't know, what foot did I get up on? I have the slightest idea. In fact, I think I got up on both feet at the same time because I was supporting myself here in order not to run into this. But let's see. What if this wasn't there? This wasn't there. I get up, I think, first with this and then with that. But if I'm going over to her, I think I would do it the other way around. So I don't know which foot I really get up on. It depends on where I'm going. My foot knows where I'm going, and it does something without my awareness of what I'm doing. And the same thing is in a way true in almost all the things that we work with. You always ask, how do I do it? And I always say, you just think of it and you'll do it. Just think of doing it, tell yourself to do it, and you'll do it. You see, you tell your hand, you see, I was just using my hand. You tell your hand not to move. I don't know how that happens, and the hand doesn't move. I can move this hand, but this hand doesn't move. Why? I don't know. I told the hand not to move. You see, you tell somebody else to move, he or she moves. Why? I don't know. Sometimes they don't. They don't want to move. But otherwise, they obey. So that when we look at these things and we try to discover things which are inherent in the structure of the human being, we often interrupt and interfere those capacities which come naturally to us. So that actually, the way in which you use any of these things, especially the element of emotional memory, which we're now discussing, you simply use it and then go into the scene. And we demonstrated this last time, but because it is unclear, and because in that area many of you will come to it much later on, not immediately, though we encourage you to use it as immediately as you can, because it's an important part of almost every scene. Not every scene needs a full complement of emotional intensity, but then it needs what we call sensory reality. Must have reality. There must always be a concrete thing that you're talking about, not just a general kind of idea as to what you're talking about. So therefore, we are today going further and demonstrating again an emotional memory and how it is used, how you go from the emotional memory into speech, a monologue, because we don't really have a scene here. Though last time we had what was really a scene. It wasn't just a monologue. It was a scene in which somebody else talks, but the actor was able to do it without the presence of the partner. Lois has been working too hard. She's been relaxing all this time unnecessarily. She could have listened to us. You see, a surgeon, when he's going to do a great operation, he doesn't work at it for 3 hours before he starts, he'd be dead by the time the operation came along. You see. And all of you have a tendency, out of the fear of not getting something, to mistrust your capacity and therefore to work much too hard at it. I don't mind it, but it is not really that necessary, except for those of you that may have difficulty at the beginning in being able to create it, and therefore you learn your own nature. I mean, there are some people that, let's say, that play the violin. They practice only 1 hour a day. Well, they practice only 2 hours on 3 days of the week. Isaac Stern recently, in an article in the New York Times, claimed, I think, that he didn't practice very much. He only practiced 2 days out of the week, and so on. I don't know what would happen if you practiced every day. So that's the point. He could only be better. Certainly wouldn't get worse. But that's the way we often have a tendency to take our talent a little bit for granted, and therefore not to make full use. So I don't mind that she did it. I'm not either complaining or criticizing, but only pointing out that it is not necessary. It's not essential. If you feel it helps you, great. But then if you're going to have to go for one scene, and then we have a change of scenery, then you go into the next scene with a completely different thing, you obviously are not going to have the same amount of time. Therefore, we should not accept this as an inevitable demand. You can do it at the beginning, it helps you. You have to learn to do it to such an extent as we did in the group theater, where all these things were tested and tried, until it takes no more than 1 minute. Literally, 1 minute before you need something. You start what you're working on in the middle of a scene, before the scene, wherever it's coming, while you're going on acting. You learn to stop these exercises. And on cue, Lois, I don't know, have we ever checked emotional memory with you? Have you done an exercise? When was this? I don't remember. Long time ago? Okay. And so really, Lois is doing us a favor. I would ordinarily not have checked it for her because I know that she can do it fairly well. But she offered to demonstrate the way in which it is then, which it then goes into some scene or some monologue, and that's therefore what she is what she will demonstrate for us. What, by the way, is the scene of the monologue?
It's from Minimal Burton's play.
I see. Okay. The what? Okay. Okay. You would seem to be comparatively relaxed, even though when I spoke to you, you had to lift your head up to look at me, which was unnecessary. You could have continued doing what you were doing and spoken to me, continued to speak to me, because often that's what we have to do actually within a scene. Let me just check. I think you are right. Let me just check the relaxation, just to make sure. We're getting a little opposition. Why is that now? It's a difficult exercise for you to do.
No.
I'm getting a lot of impulses, which is good, but I'm also getting a little opposition there. That won't hurt because I don't think it'll interfere with it. Does this have anything to do with the exercise?
No.
The exercise is already working with that. No, there's a little tension there now. Are you afraid of the exercise?
No.
A little interference there, but it should be done away with by the exercise itself. Okay. Actually, when you do the exercise, you do not speak as she will speak now. That is only for the purpose of checking, so that I know that our concentration is functioning properly, and therefore can help to maintain our concentration where it belongs, so that the exercise is properly done, which only means that it should not deal with the emotion, it should not deal with what you feel, it should not deal with the story, it should deal only with the sensory objects which make up the event that occurred. Because when you do it the other way, it often will not work. Or if it works the first time, which it usually will, it will not work on later occasions. Because the way in which you do it will not be able to recreate the reality. You'll tend to go more towards the story and towards the result, and therefore the instrument will not function properly. Okay? Sit up a little bit. Sit up. Sit up more. Lift your head up. Easy. Don't worry about that. The brow is tense. Stop.
Cold.
Where? Where are you cold?
In my leg.
Oh, maybe that's why I see. That's why we were getting the contractions there. Yeah. Relax the legs. Feel the cold, but relax the legs. Go ahead. Watch the brow. Don't tense the brow.
I'm little. I have a flat white shoe. A dress. I don't like it. It's small.
No, I don't want what you don't like.
Cold.
I only want the description of the dress you have on. Where you'll feel it. Not the description, but where you experience it in the kinetic senses, in the bodily senses.
It's too short.
No, that means that you feel it at a certain point.
I feel it.
Relax, you are tensing. That's obviously what I felt at the beginning when I said there was something occurring which seemed oppositional.
I feel
It is part of the exercise, actually.
top of my leg.
Yeah. Keep going now.
There's a bed.
No, that doesn't mean anything.
And
It's a
the
word.
floor is
You see
cold.
something, it has
The
shape,
floor.
size, color.
It's cold.
Oh, you're in a bed. You feel it, in other words. Where do you feel it?
I'm not in the bed.
Huh?
I'm touching the bed.
You're touching the
with my hand.
Okay. Relax, you're tensing.
Soft.
You're tensing. Relax. Relax, you're tensing. Go ahead. You see, the exercise happened very quickly. So in a way, it only demonstrates how quickly it can happen, rather than how it happens. Because even she just started and the exercise already working. So for those of you that don't know these exercises, it is not a good illustration of how it works. This is the way it works, but it's not the way in which it's done, because she just started and it started to happen.
Smell.
Relax, relax, relax.
Lipstick. I don't like the way it smells.
Sit up in the chair.
I don't like the way the lipstick smells. like it.
No, I don't care about the liking. I
I
want the
smell-
taste of the lipstick, the smell of it, and so on. I don't want any of the emotional expressions.
It's red.
It doesn't hurt when you do it by yourself, but from the point of view of repeating it. The
Smells.
less you worry about the emotion, the better it is. Otherwise, you will
smells.
tend to take on conventional ways of expressing that exercise.
Smells. A lot. Smells.
Relax the arm, the hand. Yeah, don't worry about the words. Just, it smells like, I don't find the word as sharp, unpleasant,
Sharp.
whatever it is. Just use any word you want. Don't worry about its correctness. About its verbal correctness.
I smell perfume.
Well, you smell a certain thing which you call perfume. What do you smell? What is the smell? Where do you experience it? And what is
It's
it?
sweet, and I
That's right.
feel it in my face.
Now notice when she said perfume, it was one reaction. When she starts really to make contact with it, we get a interesting and quite differently interesting color. That's when you don't make a thing precise and definite. You will get something, but you will not necessarily get what is really in it.
It's sweet. So sweet. I don't like it. See, red shoe. And legs, pretty legs. I want to touch them. I want to touch myself on the legs. But I can't.
Relax the hands.
Hair, brown hair.
Keep your head up. Easy.
The hair is too curly. I don't like it. The face. Pretty face.
When you do the exercise, of course, you do not need to talk when you do it by yourself. The talk now is only for me to make sure that she doesn't wander off into the wrong way of working for the exercise.
I'm cold. Pretty face. Pretty face.
I don't quite know what you're referring to there.
To touch the face.
Ah, okay.
I want to touch the face.
Now, what you see, what you hear,
I see.
what you touch, what you taste,
Blue
what
eyes,
you smell, what you
round
experience
ears,
kinetically. Not
sweet
what you want, or what you
perfume.
feel, or how you
I
feel, or
don't
anything
like
like
the
that.
perfume.
Except in the kinetic senses.
Sweet. Now, red lipstick.
Relax the neck, though. You're moving your head too much, unnecessarily.
I
Relax the throat, relax the neck. That's right.
get close
Do you want something to wipe your face? Yes, sir.
to the bend down toward me.
No, never mind what you want. You'll have certain sensations in the body at that moment. You'll see.
Cold.
I don't want you to tell me what happens as a result of what you see. That because you see
Cold.
something, you want something. I don't want that.
I want to cry.
No, I don't care about that. You either feel tears in the
I
eye,
feel
or you
tears.
feel certain areas of the muscles with some kind of kinetic response, so on. Fine. That's
My
what called crying.
stomach hurts.
But don't use these generalized words. You have a tendency to do that.
It's cold.
Where? Cold is sensations that you experience.
Arm.
You then call them cold. If you don't
My
experience
leg.
them, we don't know what it is. Now you get the cold?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm alone.
What you see, what you hear, what you touch, what you taste, what you smell, what you experience
I
kinetically.
see
Now when you're getting tied up in your emotions,
dirt.
I want to see your will and the way in which you work.
Lots of dirt.
Lots of what?
Dirt.
I don't know what that means.
Sand.
Now describe what you see.
I see sand.
No.
Little pebbles of sand.
You see the colors?
Brown.
That's right.
Dark. Wet. Brown.
That's what you see. You can call that sand, you can call it mud, you can call it anything you want. It's what you see which
Shovel.
creates the reality.
Shovel. I see. Old.
No, darling, you're using
Shovel.
words. You're not making contact with the object.
Glass.
See something with a long thing, and then it has a round or a
Pointed.
curve, and so on. That's right. That's
Shovel.
what you see. You then call it. So on. I don't care what you call it. I don't want the name. I don't want to know what it is. I don't want to know what you feel. I don't even want to know what the objects are. I only want their sensory reality.
Dirt.
Darling, I just told you that I don't want...
Smell.
What is the smell?
Sharp. Sharp. Men.
You're using words, darling. I don't
Coat,
say men, women, and
coat.
animals. You see something, describe the equivalent of the face, or whatever it would be the face in an animal, describe the color, describe shape, size, touch, whatever it is that your senses come in contact with, not the result thing that your mind adds to it. Otherwise you leave out the reality and you use a stencil. Men, mud, sand. Somebody who doesn't know what it is, if they have no meaning. But you describe what it is, they don't know what the word for it is, but they know what you are seeing.
I'm wet. I'm all wet. I smell. Sharp. Bad.
Relax the throat.
Round mud. Lots of pointed shovel. Here. Sound. Digging. Digging. Sound. More dirt. A little bit of green. Crown. Coat. And ugly. I'm wet and I'm cold.
You're giving me emotional reactions, darling. I don't care for them and I don't want them. I want the objects. But next time you won't necessarily have exactly the same feeling about wanting or not wanting.
Bah.
Or about liking or not liking.
Round. Ugly.
No, ugly is a word that defines something that you see.
Bah.
Then we will get that it's ugly to you without your telling us. We will get your reaction to that particular object, and we will use our own words to define it.
More rain.
No, you feel something,
Cold.
darling. You see,
Cold.
you feel. You call that rain, darling. Please. You are not making any effort to do what I ask you to do. The exercise is working, so don't worry about that. But I'm worried about your ability to control it, to deal with it, to do different things with it, so it won't always come out the same way. And you are constantly emphasizing only your own emotional response to it. The emotions will vary, and we want them to vary. We don't want you to get stuck in feeling that it's only something I don't like.
Window. White. Curtain. Pink. Pink. Dark. Chair. No. Dining on chair. Big chair. Big
Try to watch and remember,
window.
because I will make some comments about later about certain things that she
Round.
did, which are very interesting.
Round. Around the window. Round. Around the window. Street. Black street. Big chair. In the chair. I don't want to be in the chair.
I don't want the feelings. I don't want the expression of your
I
feelings.
would not be cold.
We're not in control if you do
Cold.
not do what I ask you to do.
Cold. Dark. Floor. Crowd. Furniture. Wind blowing in the window.
Now, how close are we to
Uh,
the basic moment or so that you wish to recapture, or are we already in it?
Yeah. Closely.
It's close?
Yeah.
Okay.
The curtain. The white curtain. I'm sitting at the white curtain in the window and round around the window. Cold. 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 Black street, white sidewalk, ugly telephone poles, gray. 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 Black street, white sidewalk. Black bed. White,
Wipe your face for a little.
white curtain.
Relax your face.
I'm little.
I don't care about that, darling. You see, you're giving me always the things that I
Oh,
keep telling you I don't want.
chair.
Relax the face.
Oh, warm. The material, hard. Hard. The material, hard. Against my skin. It's hard.
Relax the face.
It's hard against my skin.
Brow is tense.
See?
Brow is tense on the left side.
I see. Gray. Black. Green. I see. Shiny. Floor. Shiny floor. White. Dormant. Brown windows. Dirt. Black bed. Black. Pointy fence.
Relax the face. Are we there yet, or that's it? That's about it? You can go further, right? Okay, keep going further. Relax, wipe your face. Keep going with the exercise and go into the scene. Open your eyes, easy. Keep going with the exercise and go into the scene.
White. Curtain. White.
Is that the scene? No, I said keep going with the exercise, but go into the scene.
Father was
With the words of the scene.
alive.
Relax the throat. Sit up in the chair.
Wheel. Made him because
I can't understand what
when
you're saying.
Father was alive,
Relax. Relax. You're not relaxing. I've asked you to do that a number of times.
We
and you
obeyed
have not
him.
done it.
because we had to.
Inside, you do the exercise. That's right. You don't speak it out now, because you never have to speak an exercise out. We do that only for purposes of demonstration.
When Father died,
Relax the face, darling.
you thought
I don't know whom you're talking
you
to.
could carry on in the same way. It was a lot of
Keep going with the words. I don't want any effort.
a lot of nonsense.
Yeah. Keep going with the words. Keep talking the
You
words.
want to know why?
Keep talking with the words. Keep talking. Keep talking.
I'll tell you
Don't
why.
try to space them.
Because everything you
Sit back in
did
the
was
chair.
for your own satisfaction. That's the truth of it.
Relax the face.
Everything you did was
When you get to the end of the
a matter
monologue,
of
don't stop.
life
I'm
and
going to ask you to do
death,
something else.
significance, and importance. I don't know what else.
Wipe your face.
I wanted to feel like you.
Sit back in the chair.
I admired you.
Keep talking. Keep
I
talking. Keep
didn't
talking.
know that you
I don't want any
disliked
pauses.
me.
I don't want any pauses.
You're scared of me.
Keep talking. Keep talking. Keep talking.
Some strange way I don't even know you're scared of me.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
You hate me. You hate yourself.
Keep talking,
You
relax.
hate everything that's
Relax
mine.
the throat. Relax
You're
the throat.
full of hate.
Sit back in the chair.
That's the end of the monologue.
Okay, keep
Curtain.
doing what you're doing. I'm going to ask you to do something very unusual.
Why?
Just for no. I mean,
Curtain.
don't talk at the monologue. Just keep doing it now for yourself. Now I want you to get up and dance. Keep doing the monologue.
When
Keep.
Father was alive.
But dance. Come on. Get up and dance. Come on.
When Father was alive. When Father was alive, you thought you could carry on in the same way.
Now jazz.
But it was a lot of nonsense. Do you want to know why? I'll tell you why.
Atta girl.
Because everything you did was for your own satisfaction. And that's the truth of it. Everything you did was a matter of life and significance and importance, and I don't know what else. I wanted to be like you. I was afraid of you. I didn't know you disliked me.
Now do the same thing in makeup. Look in the mirror and make up.
When Father was alive, you thought you could carry on in the same way. But it was a lot of nonsense. Do you want to know why? I'll tell you why. Because everything you did was for your own self-satisfaction.
Keep going.
And that's the truth of it.
Keep going with the words. Don't stop.
I always
No
wanted to
pause.
be like you.
No punctuation.
I admired you. I didn't know you disliked me.
Okay. Now, can you tell us a funny story?
One time, when it was Christmas, I was with my father, and I was rocking in a chair, and it was Christmas Eve, and I wanted to tell a joke, and I thought it was very funny. And the joke was, there were two men at the corner, and one was a bum, and he said to the man that was dressed, "Do you have a dime for a cup of coffee?" And the man that was all dressed up looked at him and said, "Sir, thou shalt not give, and thou shalt not receive." Quote Shakespeare. And the bum, he looked at him and he said, "Well, fuck you, Tennessee Williams."
All right, darling.
And my father didn't laugh. And he stopped rocking in the chair. And it was the end of the evening. He didn't think I could take fun.
Okay. All right. That's it. Sit down. Sit down, darling. Now, one of the supposed experts in this area, a man who knows nothing whatsoever about this work, except that he attended, I think, for 4 weeks at the Actor Studio on some former occasion, and then went to London and became a big expert on the method. And when the Los Angeles Times recently wanted to invite somebody, I don't know why, to write on the method, they asked him to write because he had just written a book, you see. He says, how is it possible they tell us that the actor can be completely involved in what he's doing, truly experience. How is that possible? If he truly experiences, how can he remember the lines? How can he go on with the scene? How can he do any of these things? Well, he's right, he doesn't know. But that's because he doesn't know anything about it to begin with. Not because he doesn't know that particular part of the work. You've just seen how it's done. And you've just seen how the very thing that he says is impossible is the very thing that we do. If we couldn't do it, it would have no value. If this exercise was to be used only on one occasion and for one occasion, it would have no value. It can be used wherever it serves your purpose. And as you see, it gives color and life and meaning and drama to anything that the words are concerned with. If you feel that that particular experience is at that moment one that could parallel what the actor is going through. Now, so that from that point of view, the exercise, first of all, was very well done. In fact, even in addition to everything else, the quickness with which she started, except that I can't quite use that as a complete example because she was relaxing too long. Therefore, you can say, well, it was the relaxation. She did it for such a long time. You see. Were you doing the exercise during the relaxation?
No, I was listening to you.
You were what?
I was listening to you.
Yes, I know, because you answered me. But, at least from a scientific point of view, there is no guarantee that she wasn't doing the exercise. Actually, the exercise was already working even when I checked it. That's the things that I felt and which I couldn't understand. I asked you whether it had anything to do with the exercise. You said no, it didn't come from the exercise. Actually, it did. Later on, when you started describing the cold and things like that, it was completely the kind of impulses that I felt in the body. But nonetheless, it shows how quickly it can happen. It shows how it can happen even before you start doing it, when you are properly relaxed. Otherwise, the relaxation, which implies the presence of tension, would inhibit the flow of sensation, the flow of thought and of sensation, and therefore would interfere with your getting it as quickly as she got it. So there were very interesting things in this, plus, of course, the end, which in a way I had not intended to do, but because she is capable and she worked at the exercise very well, I wanted to show you to what extent it can be controlled, to what extent you can turn this into anything you want with any scene, whether it belongs to it or not. If you decide that scene, that funny story, if she had told it, she would have told it as a funny story. If she feels that she is experiencing to somebody this kind of experience, the experience was there, yet the story was just as funny, if not more so, because of that. Because you saw what it did to her, not just what it meant to her. And this part of the demonstration I had not anticipated because I didn't know how well it would work, and therefore I was not prepared to do it, though when I do demonstrate the emotional memory sometimes, that is what I do for larger groups of people that are unacquainted with it. That's what I do in order to show them the facility, the quickness, the ease with which the actor can do any of the things that to begin with do. You'd say, how can she dance and do that? Interestingly enough, when she danced, the monologue became easier because her body was a little bit tense with having to do the physical thing. Some of the energy was siphoned off into what she did, and therefore the words could go more easily, more quickly. Otherwise, she had difficulty in controlling.